Hey, Marianne DeNovellis here with the Six-Figure Mastermind. Today's conversation is going to be how to close the sale over the phone. Hey everyone, this is Marianne DeNovellis, and today we're going to have the conversation about how to close the sale over the phone. Now, first things first, let's talk about some do's and don'ts when you're talking on the phone with a potential client. Before you even get on the phone with a potential client, there's some mental space that needs to be cleared out before you can even think about having the conversation. Now, first things first, you've got a client that said, yes, I would love to have a mentoring session with you or a pathfinding session with you or a strategy session with you. I want to know more. So understand first and foremost that you already have a yes from your client. And during the course of your entire conversation, your goal is to find out not how many yeses you can get, but where their yeses take them. Before you start having the phone conversation, you've got to get in the right mindset. And here's some don'ts when it comes to the mindset. Don't look for dollar signs. If you've got a dollar sign in your mind or in your eyes or in your heart, and you can see past the person and just for their wallet, then I can guarantee you the person on the other side of the conversation will smell it coming a mile away. If all you can think about is dollar signs, then you've totally missed the whole point of the conversation. Conversely, here's what you do. Do see the person for who they are. When you can see a person instead of a dollar sign or a number, that's when the deepest connection will happen and the person will feel it on the other side and want to work with you. Keep in mind, no matter what you're selling, a product, a service, or any kind of a business, you're not selling that thing or that time. You're actually selling you. So connect with the person on the other end of the phone. Another big don't is don't be salesy. In your conversation with the person, you're going to have the temptation to say, I want them to buy my product. I have this sales goal I want to meet. I have all of these things that I'm working towards. If you get lost in the salesy mindset, then you've totally lost your client. So don't be salesy in the conversation. Do connect with the person's needs. You're having a one-on-one conversation with this person because they have a problem that you have a solution to. Be a solutions provider. Ask brilliant questions. Find out what their needs are and address them and see if there's a perfect fit for the two of you to work together. Here's another don't for your sales conversation. Don't drop the ball. The ball used to mean this, and maybe in some minds it still does. It's actually the briefcase that follows the President of the United States around with all of the nuclear codes in it. And if you drop the ball, you have just let loose a whole torrent of problems. Now in the sales conversation, what I mean by don't drop the ball is don't allow the client to have the get back to you phrase. We've all heard that before, and we've all understood that it really means I'm done talking in this conversation. I'm through with whatever's going on because I have get back to you in my mind. When you're setting up a future appointment, let's say you got a client and they need to either talk to a spouse, or maybe they need to talk to their bank before they can pay you, or maybe there's another thing they need to figure out with their scheduling before they know that it's an absolute yes, it's time to move forward and book our first appointment. What you need to do is be the one to ask the hard questions and also be the one to be in charge of the conversation. When you're in charge of the conversation, here's what that looks like. Hey, I've got a great conversation. It sounds like we're ready to go together, but I understand that you do need to talk to your spouse first. Now, in the don't scenario, we'll say, get back to me after you talk to your spouse and we'll talk then. That has no follow through. It has no accountability. Instead, what you're going to want to do is say, when can you talk to your spouse? What time will they be arriving home? When is the next opportunity that you will have to connect? Once you find that time, I will give them about 45 minutes to an hour plus what they gave me. So let's say, for example, that their spouse comes home at 6 p.m. tonight. I say, great. After you have a chance to talk to them, does 7 o'clock work for me to call you back and follow up? Do you see what I did there? Do you see how I'm setting a perfect time frame to get back with my client and get back together and put our minds together for the next step? If you leave it at a let me get back to you, or even worse, get back to me, then you've totally just lost your sale. During your phone sales conversation, you won't be able to read as much of their body language and their tone as you would if you were in person. So if you're having a phone sales conversation, I would actually encourage you to turn it on online and use a platform like Zoom or another platform so that you can connect face to face even if you're not in person. When you use a video messenger like Zoom or another platform, what you have is a sneak peek inside their world. You can see when they're thinking about something. You can check in with their body language. You can see if they're writing things down or if they're distracted and not following through. When you can turn your phone conversation into a video conversation, you'll know that you have more of their attention when you're having your discussion back and forth. When you do have your phone conversations, one of the most important bedrock foundational things that you need to know is to be in charge of the conversation. The person with the highest level of consciousness will lead the conversation. When it comes to parts where you may feel tempted to step back, for example, when the money conversation comes up, the more conscious person will win. I'm going to invite you, when you have these phone conversations, when you're trying to close the sale, to do your breakthrough work beforehand. And here's what I mean through breakthrough work. Remember how we talked about don't go into the conversation until you've cleared out all the muck, until you've cleared out seeing the dollar signs instead of the person? You're going to write down all of the things that come up for you about this conversation that could potentially sabotage your sale. If there's any hesitation about asking for the money when it's time, clear that out. If there's any hesitation about asking some hard questions and being the more conscious person, clear that out. Write down all of the ideas that would get in your way and then flip them around to ideas that would serve you. Let's take an example. What are some ideas that would come up for you when you're about to step into a sales conversation, whether it's for a $20 product or a $20,000 product? What would come up for you when you are going into this conversation that could potentially block what you're trying to accomplish? Let's just use an example. In fact, pause right now and write down a bunch of things on a piece of paper that could potentially get in your way. Okay, great. Have you got your list? Awesome. So here's an example. It's too much. Think about what the idea "it's too much" could do to your conversation. Maybe it's too much means I have to invest an hour with this person and my time is really valuable and that's too much time. Maybe it's too much means my personality is so big and people can't handle me. Maybe it's too much means my program costs too much money and I won't be able to sell it to anybody. You see how these things could get in your way? Think for a moment what the result of having all of these ideas will show up with in your world. What is the result of thinking it's too much? You will totally manifest whatever you bring about in whatever mindset you're in. Tell me this, have you heard the phrase, "I knew that would happen"? Have you ever said that phrase out loud? I totally saw that coming. There's a reason for that, because you created it in your own reality. So maybe let's say you've had a lot of conversations with people. You've had about 20 phone conversations trying to sell your product and you've got nothing to show for it. What's really going on? We call that a limiting belief because it's limiting you in your results. It's limiting you in your ability to show up and to serve. First things first, you've got to clear all of that out. And when you go into that conversation with a clear, service-oriented mindset, that is what will resonate with your client. Most important, be a solutions provider. Your client is calling you. They set up a conversation with you because there is some trial in their world that they are going through. There is some passion that they want to get to, but they don't know how yet. They're dealing with some blocks. When you go into a conversation, you're going to be very, very clear that you are a solutions provider, but not knowing whether or not you make a good fit. I always open up my conversations with something that sounds a lot like this. Hey, I am so happy to talk to you today. I'm so grateful we got connected online. I'm so happy to find out if what I have can help you or not. What this conversation is going to look like is I'm going to ask you about what you're wanting to build, what some of your goals are, and see how we can bridge the gaps between where you're currently at and what you're creating. If it makes sense at the end, we'll see if there's a way that we can work together in the future. Do you see how low pressure that is? How there's no pressure at all and how it feels like I am just here to serve you? That is the energy you get to be in. In our program, we have a whole 10-step system for mastering the closing conversation. And those 10 steps are built upon building an authentic relationship and connecting with the person on the other line. So when you connect, it's hard to go wrong. When you are truly interested in the success of another person, you can hardly mess up at all. You can have the most perfect sales script from beginning to end, A to Z, and if you go into that conversation with that absolutely perfect sales script, but you have dollar signs in your eyes, you will sabotage your sale every single time. Conversely, if you have a really clean, cool energy, if you are totally chill, you don't know who the right person from your program is. You don't know that if this person is right for it or not. You can't know what's best for another person. What you do know is this. Maybe you have a goal to get 2 new clients by the end of the week. You've got 10 strategy sessions or mentoring sessions set up to find them. When the person gets on the other line with you, you don't know if that's the right person, and they don't know if they're the right fit for you either. You're in a process of interviewing one another to see if it's a good fit. That's where you get to detach. You get to totally break away from whatever you think the result is and just make your best offer forward. So if you have the right energy, you could have the totally wrong sales script and say all of the wrong things no matter what. But if you have the pure intention of saying, I'm here to serve you and see if we're a good fit together, then the sale will be the perfect outcome every time. That's why in our 10-step formula, we call it a fail-proof formula. You are fail-proof because you get to the right outcome every time. Whether that be they're going to close a sale and you're going to have a transaction, or whether that be, you know what, it's not a good fit and I'm going to help you get to your next step no matter what. You want a piece of bonus material? Here's my special bonus for you. Whenever someone leaves my side from a mentoring session or a pathfinding session, it's my job to help them find their next step. Not my next step, their next step. So, be that person, be that solutions provider, and have a solution for whoever comes your way. Okay, so now you know exactly what you need to close the conversation over the phone. What I'm gonna do for you is create a link in the description below so you can actually download a PDF of the 1 through 10 step guide to have the conversation over the phone and actually close the sale. This is a fail-proof formula. You guys are gonna love it. Make sure to hit subscribe and we'll see you tomorrow.